Spring cleaning of sorts at Wilson Magnet High School. For the past several weeks, district maintenance workers have been washing, mortaring, and surveying the grounds, all in preparation for President Bush's visit this Thursday.
Concentrating on this area here, where the president's coming this way, so, we're trying to keep the face of the building, the front of the building, neat and clean.
Fire officials say approximately 6 fire safety officers will be on hand at the school, just in case, but that no trucks or extra heavy equipment will be brought in. Local residents, on the other hand, are making their own personal preparations.
Well, I really didn't know he was coming until last night, but I'm glad that he's coming. It's exciting to know that he's right across the street from me.
No residents seem to have been contacted by either local or federal authorities, but News 8 was told that all cars parked along the surrounding roads will either have to be moved or be towed.
Well, there's no parking on this side from 8 to 4 in the morning anyhow, during the day rather. So that should be no problem.
And right out here by the street, the district plans to erect snow fencing to further secure the area for the president's visit. This extra security, while routine for the president, is especially noteworthy considering last night's drive-by shooting only 100 yards down Genesee Street, as well as today's unrelated drug house bust and homicide arrest on Columbia Avenue. But school officials are hoping that Wilson's level of excellence outshines the neighborhood problem. Jay Michigan, News 8. Welcome to Strong's new and expanded Children's Critical Care Unit, a $2.1 million facility doctors say brings state-of-the-art medical care to Western New York. The improvements, which include an increase in the number of beds to 12, focus on achieving the best pediatric intensive care available anywhere. The directors also emphasize the need for a healthy working relationship between staff and family.
For us, it got us through the most difficult time in our whole lives. To have a nurse there to hold your hand or to help take away your fears or help calm you when they see that you've had just about enough.
The nurse-patient ratio has also been cut, allowing for each nurse to dedicate more time to each child. Similarly, the layout of the wing is constructed to relieve the stresses on both patients and staff.
The unit's designed to really support the family. Each room is a private room, but has a lot of glass to enhance visualization, which will help us in our assessment.
Environment probably has a lot to do with how well the child does. Maybe not ultimately, but certainly during the time of illness, and perhaps may even speed recovery.
But the greatest advancement the center is offering its patients is a state-of-the-art computer system. Each one of these cartridges is specially designed to monitor a specific vital sign. Doctors and nurses can easily monitor the computer screen and power control placed in each room, thus providing an even higher level of care than before. Jason McGraw, Strong's first bone marrow transplant recipient, was also on hand today to test the new equipment. For he and his family, the hospital provided just the right stuff.
Yeah, Jason's cured.
Jay Michigan, News 8.
Which says, I quote,
It was fierce.
The county has adequately explored alternatives to the landfill. That's not true.
Mr. Ackley. County legislators held their own against the rowdy crowd to pass the first partisan landfill issue in over 12 years.
The problem is what has been done or not been done in the last 2 or 3 years in bringing the citizens of Riga into the process, allowing them to participate in the buyout programs and things like this. Instead, they were simply told by this administration what they were going to be given or what they weren't going to be given, and with no participation whatsoever.
The studies that have included as part of the draft environmental impact statement and the final environmental impact statement have proven that this is the site in Monroe County that is the best acceptable for a landfill.
To show the support, Riga residents wore armbands protesting the decision. One 13-year-old even returned County Executive Fry his $1 bill the county has offered in compensation. Riga residents feel insufficient data and research prevented the county legislature from making a well-informed decision. And now one local resident sees a new environmental problem affecting all of Monroe County.
It's not just Riga that's going to be affected. As they stated, Hotel Creek, the headwaters come from the wetlands surrounding the landfill site. That flows into Black Creek, that flows into the Genesee River and into Lake Ontario. When the pollution starts, and it will, it's not going to affect just Riga, it's going to affect all of the Monroe County residents.
Included in the package were clauses preventing any towns except those situated in Monroe County from using the landfill. But no decision is final until the DEC approves the legislation, sometime within the next couple of weeks. The airport expansion issue was also on the agenda for tonight's meeting. Fry feels a bigger airport will mean more business for Rochester.
That terminal is the first thing seen by visitors to this community, and I think that the impression of a new terminal, one that is a bigger, more efficient, modern facility is going to have a good effect.
The legislature also authorized maintenance for the Utica Creek Park, approving an agreement reached earlier today. Jay Mishkin, News 8.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Mrs. Van Zandt?
Word slowly started to spread throughout the city this morning, and by mid-afternoon, opinions were strong.
I don't agree with that. I think we should have the same funding we always have been.
The important part is to be able to have the freedom for her to make that choice morally, whichever way she decides.
And if there is anything that is going to prevent women from having choice, I would consider it most unfortunate.
I'm glad that what happened. I think that the Supreme Court could have gone farther and, totally, going against the roadway, decision.
It's wrong, and that anything that's done that would maybe bring people to the belief that there's another way to go would make me happy.
Many people, including those opposed to abortion, expressed a fear of renewed backstreet abortions.
That's probably what will happen, especially for, the women that cannot afford it and they don't want to be pregnant. That's what they'll do. That's what's happened in the past.
If they do that, there's going to be more trouble because people are going to go on illegally, and then there's going to be more people getting killed, hurt, and
Still others questioned the motives and actions of the Supreme Court.
They're evading the whole issue. They just don't want to make a definite yes or a definite no. So it throws it back onto the individual.
Whether it's legal or not legal, people are going to be doing it.
But as varied as today's opinions were, most people seem to agree on one thing. The debate is far from over. Jay Mishkin, News 8.
Fighting a neurological disorder is stressful enough on its own, but not knowing the disease, let alone any treatments, is downright frustrating. This is the plight of one Rochester woman forced to travel to London for diagnosis and treatment. And as Jay Mishkin reports now, after 4 years of pain, Linda Huff-Fastano's battle is just beginning.
The pains for Linda Huff-Fastano began in her lower back, shortly after the birth of her second daughter. Soon, numbness to her left side and loss of bladder control followed. Doctors ran a variety of tests, but discovered nothing.
I've had 3 MRIs, I've had CAT scans, I've gone through extensive blood workup, spinal angiogram.
Now Fastano is traveling to London to see a world-renowned neurologist. Family Service of Rochester has started a fund drive to help with the cost of the trip. For Fastano, going to the public was no easy task.
If it's pride or my life, that I will take life over pride.
2 years ago, Linda left her job as an assembly line worker. Her husband now works 2 jobs 7 days a week just to make ends meet. The couple's 2 daughters will be staying with friends during her London stay.
It's been extremely difficult on our family financially and mentally. It's made us a stronger family unit. But it's difficult fighting a disease with no name on it.
We went through all of the different possibilities in terms of tumors and other things that we could consider, and I feel she deserves these sophisticated electrical tests and that they may carry us further towards diagnosis and management.
So now, after 4 years, nearly 30 doctors and countless hospitals, Linda is going to London to hopefully find the answers to cure her illness. Jay Mishkin, News 8.
Traditionally, investment means real estate or stock. But what about automobiles? Today, more and more people are finding their investments in classic cars are appreciating at a higher rate than most CDs. Jay Mishkin reports.
These are the cars of another era. The Pontiac GTO and Chevrolet Bel Air are the classic cars from the 50s and 60s. But now they are worth much more than just good memories.
You've got a much bigger investment potential with the collector cars, a lot more than, say, stocks or CDs.
This national trend has exploded during the past 5 years. Appreciation rates on classic cars can reach 40% annually. But don't expect your car to increase in value so quickly.
Classic car is one that was constituted in a premium fashion, frequently custom bodied, and always top of the line.
The big thing right now is muscle cars. Muscle cars and a lot of the 50s vintage cars, 55 to 57 Chevys are pretty big right now, and convertibles.
This is a 57 Chevrolet, probably the most popular American car of all time. While its value today ranges from $15,000 to $25,000, it is estimated by the year 2000 to be worth near $100,000. For those unfamiliar with classic cars, publications are available for guidance, no matter what your preference. Jay Mishkin, News 8.
Grape growers in our area are counting on dry weather for a better fruit. Grapes mature best in a dry environment. Last year's drought generated one of the best local harvests ever. But growers are concerned that this summer's heavy rain will ruin their crop. Jay Mishkin reports.
Remember last year's long, hot summer? Its legacy remains vivid in the minds of local grape growers. They are hoping for a quick return to dry weather.
Last year's crop was probably one of the best ones we've had since about 1980. The fruit was very ripe. It was very clean. We had no problems in the growing conditions. The dryness helped that fruit to really be a very sound, high-quality fruit.
This year's crop for Casa Largo and Fairport isn't to be picked until September, but its quality and quantity may be below last year's harvest. Farmers say the rain is the culprit. The grapes are bunched much looser this year, allowing less moisture to accumulate, but the farmers are still worried.
Much rain, the ground will be so saturated. It's not just the day they rain, also the following day, because there's so much moisture in the ground. It just keeps everything so damp. And
strong summer sun has created an ideal soil for grape growing. If, however, the heavy rains continue, the '89 vintage could suffer serious damage. The next few weeks are crucial. If heavy rains return, an entire vintage could be destroyed. And even if the weather does hold out, it will be a while before the public can sample these wines.
This vintage, which is the 1989 vintage, probably will not come to market until mid-1990 or even 91.
Jay Mishkin, News 8.
Greece has been going on now for years. Jay Mishkin reports this bipartisan issue might have political motivations.
The town of Greece has grown, and much quicker than its planning board imagined back in 1976. So now Supervisor Boyle, along with the 3 Republican councilmen, have announced their plans for hiring an outside committee to revise the plan.
It's 41% of our land still undeveloped. It's important for us to step back and take a long, hard look at any proposals that come before us in the future.
Boyle hopes revision will encourage new developments in the northern and western sectors of town, areas he considers underdeveloped. Commercial expansion, now only 2% of the town and heavily concentrated on Ridge Road, is also expected. But the biggest concern of the councilmen is to increase the recreation and conservation areas.
We'll be able to get out in front of development, and we'll be able, hopefully, to set aside some green areas for active and passive recreation, so that in the future, the quickly increasing population in the town of Greece will have a definite park and conservation areas to enjoy.
Councilman James Doyle, the lone Democrat on the 5-member council, was not invited to the announcement, nor was he involved in the decision-making process. Doyle, who has been an outspoken supporter of the revisions, thinks the plan is pure politics.
This is a major issue, and it just seems to be an election year ploy on picking up on a theme that Councilman Nealon and I developed over a year ago.
The synchronization of the Ridge Road lights and a study of traffic patterns are expected to be completed before any changes to the master plan are implemented. The plan is to be voted on in Town Council July 18th, and despite the politics of today, it remains a bipartisan issue, and easy approval is expected. In Greece, this is Jay Mishkin, News 8.
Gunpoint arrests for car theft. Good evening, I'm Brad Couples. Rochester police swooped down on 4 car theft suspects late last night in the parking lot of Blade's restaurant. When one of the suspects in a stolen car moved like he may have been trying to run down the officer, out came the guns. In this exclusive report, Jay Mishkin found out that the lot's poor lighting was a major factor in the incident.
It all happened around 11:30 on University Avenue.
The first officer that arrived was ahead of us, and he pulled up and got out of the car, ran down about 200 yards and made a right with his gun drawn and disappeared right behind these bushes, and we walked down. This is what we saw.
He spotted the 2 suspects at a nearby car. They were crouched down next to it. The horn went off. There's apparently an anti-lock device on it that triggered the horn. They ran back to this vehicle. Officer Santel cornered them in the vehicle, and they tried to drive over them.
4 suspects were arrested. 20-year-old Fallon Lester, 17-year-olds Aaron Howard and Samuel Warren, and 16-year-old Sean Rucker were all charged with criminal possession of a stolen vehicle. Rucker and Lester were also charged with third-degree grand larceny. The owner of Blades, who rents the adjacent lot on Friday nights, says it's hard for him to control these crimes.
Basically, it's lighting. And number 1 and number 2 is police patrolling the area. We must have had 600-700 people back here last night, and if these people walked into the parking lot and were trying to break into a car with that number of people around, really what's going to stop them?
Officer Santel was uninjured, but he could have suffered serious injuries. He was on a routine patrol in the parking lot because it was so dark. Blades has also stepped up their own security.
I have 4 people that work in our parking lot on Friday nights, specifically to patrol for traffic, to keep the fire lanes open, because the fire marshal's back here quite a bit. And the police do cruise through.
In the daylight, this parking lot is safe, but last night it was dark. The lights weren't turned on, creating an open invitation for would-be criminals. Blades has installed extra lighting in the parking lot to avoid such incidents. Eric says despite the improved lighting, his restaurant is still burglarized regularly. Jay Mishkin, News 8 Night Beat. Arnold Palmer may very well have designed the course, but he certainly never could have imagined what it's become.
You asked what's unique. We wanted to do something that other courses didn't do, so we thought we'd go with the spirit of Rochester.
Yes, Rochester designed, complete with a Kodak camera and construction equipment. And as if the can of worms hasn't provided enough aggravation already, Arnold Palmer here has his own version, complete with detours and pylons. Future plans include the Hyatt Hotel Hole and Main Street USA, covered with potholes. But most golfers just enjoy the action. What do you do?
I got millions of birdies.
What are you enjoying about it?
Being with my family and trying to hit the ball into the hole.
If you prefer the American pastime, Arnold offers baseball and softball cages, where dreams are made and destroyed. Greg Biagini looking at you?
I think Frank Robinson may be checking me out. But
Don Mattingly have anything to fear from you?
I don't hardly think so.
Why not?
A little over the hill, maybe 10 years ago, but not now.
Throw in a slam dunk basketball court and video games, and the experience becomes indescribable. What do you like about it? Jay Mishkin, News 8.
Bonus point. Jackie Nudd is fired. Good evening, I'm Jim Parsons. Virginia Butler is on leave. For nearly 7 years, the name Jackie Nudd has been synonymous with AIDS Rochester. But today, that relationship came to a sudden halt. The Board of Directors of AIDS Rochester, following a special meeting last night, dismissed their executive director this morning. As Jay Mishkin reports, it was an emotional day.
Board members arrived at headquarters expecting a brief meeting with Nudd. Instead, they were met by angry staff members.
I think it stinks. I think that if they really had valid concerns, they would stop hiding behind no comment. We're not ready to address this. It's only a draft. We don't have philosophical differences. And they would give us something concrete.
Following a private meeting with Nudd, the board returned with its decision.
Executive Committee of the Board of Directors of AIDS Rochester Incorporated asked for the resignation of its executive director, Ms. Jackie Nudd.
They said that I was asked for my resignation. That's not true. They told me that I was terminated and they wanted me to sign a release. They handed it to me and I tore it up.
The board refuses any public comment, saying they don't want to air their dirty linen in public. The board did announce, however, the appointment of Charles Burnett, former Director of Administrative Services, as acting director until a replacement can be found.
It's losing its founder, it's losing its glue, it's losing its lifeblood, it's losing its integrity, it's losing someone that we know is unscrupulously fair, who will go the extra mile for you.
Nudd now foresees a demise of the agency, although unrelated to Burnett.
The integrity of the agency, as it is today, is okay. I don't know where it's going to be in 6 months.
Nudd will now weigh her legal options during the next couple of weeks. She says she hopes to continue working in Rochester, helping AIDS patients. Jay Mishkin, News 8.
We all at one time or another have been to an outdoor wedding, but today in Clifton Springs there was one that didn't follow the usual course. Oh, there was a bride and a groom, but the attendants behaved like animals and stood around in the mud munching oats. We sent Jay Mishkin to investigate, and he managed to corral the real story.
The guests were ready and anxious, the cake set to eat. The stables were cleaned and the horses fed. Wait a minute, did someone say horses?
That's what my wife wanted, wife to be.
What inspired this?
Well, we've been, had stuff to do with horses all our lives pretty well, and we work with horses now. And she always wanted to get married on horseback, so that's what we're going to do.
But why would anybody want to get married on a horse, in the rain, in the mud, in conditions like this?
We've ridden most of our lives, and it was something novel. Everybody looks for something different to do. We were just part of our lives.
Hoping to avoid a bridal shower from the threatening skies, the future Mrs. Pruitt rode side saddle, leaving the only horsing around to the mounts.
Something different. It's not, something to look back on and remember. Everybody can get married in a church, but it's kind of unusual when you get married on horseback.
And what of the Reverend? Did he look a gift horse in the mouth before the wedding?
I had lived in Montana and rode the ranch, and so she believed that I would be able to do it. That's the reason I did it.
A horse is a horse, of course, and no one can talk to a horse, of course. That is, of course, unless the horse is the famous Mr. Ed.
Horseplay aside, this was a real ceremony, the second marriage for both bride and groom. And as every obstacle was jumped, this couple expects to have a very happy marriage. Jay Mishkin, News 8. Football has been a long-standing tradition in the Palmyra-Macedon district, dating back to the 1930s. But last night, the team met its toughest competition yet, the voters.
We will not be able to offer an interscholastic athletics program, and that's a grave concern because we have over 500 students that are involved. We won't be able to purchase library books for the 4 building libraries, nor will we be able to purchase new equipment.
Tobin says a decrease in tax revenues from the state has shifted the burden to the district, and many voters just cannot afford to pay higher property taxes.
I got all I can handle on my little pension, and I don't need my taxes any higher neither. But if it went through, of course, all I'd have to do is pay for it just like the rest of them.
But what concerns many residents is the effect on the students.
I think they should have the sports in Palmer School District because they have absolutely nothing for the kids in this town to do at all.
I wish there was sports still, because it gives kids time, you know, do stuff, keeps them out of trouble.
Tonight, a special school board meeting will determine if anything can be done to save the services, including sports. Football practice was scheduled to begin August 16th. Dr. Tobin says that's not going to happen. And unless the school board or the Booster Club can find alternative funding, these bleachers are going to remain empty all season long. In Palmyra, Jay Mishkin, News 8. Plan is to be voted on in Town Council July 18th. And despite the politics of today, it remains a bipartisan issue, and easy approval is expected. As if the can of worms hasn't provided enough aggravation already, Arnold Palmer here has his own version, complete with detours and pylons. Football practice was scheduled to be...
My mom drinks.
Something inside of me that still gets really pumped about frosting. But who's kidding who? This body's a shrine, and we don't put fat or salt in the shrine.
He is the entertainer of the century. Friday, the stars are here to entertain.
Well, make contacts. Require informations. Not to be a thug. I do not hurt people. I do not kill them. And I have no intention of getting killed myself. Please, 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 you must step in. You must take control.
Don't worry, Nick. You're not a thug. Treadwell misunderstood. I'll take care of him for you.
Carly Norris has finally found a perfect apartment.
Would you look at her? She's a voyeur. She can't get enough.
A perfect romance.
You like playing games, don't you?
Would you like to play?
But somebody else has the perfect view.
You don't really know what you're dealing with, do you?
4 people died here in 2 years. Sharon Stone, William Baldwin, Tom Berenger, Sliver, rated R. Starts Friday, May 21st at theaters everywhere.
In a hurry? A lot on your plate? An hour of things to do and only half an hour to do them? At Wendy's, we have 5 fresh salads for people like you. Deluxe garden and grilled chicken salads with a soft breadstick, taco salads, and we make them fresh every day because that's the way they're best. So if you only have a second, hurry to Wendy's for a salad. They're fresh, fast, and ready to go.
Have a nice day.
Now try Wendy's fat-free French and our other reduced fat and reduced calorie dressings.
The last place we need a challenge is in the laundry room. And Stain Stick is powerful enough. I can treat the clothes, throw them down, forget it for up to a week if I want to. Concentrating on life is important. Worrying about the laundry is not.
Does your hair need more conditioning today or less?
Finesse your hair to beautiful.
Finesse Adjusting Conditioner. Conditions more on days you need it, less on days you don't.
Finesse your hair to beautiful.
For only $289 a month. And no down payment. Look at all you get. Introducing the 1993 Toyota Camry lease. Everything you've heard is true.
You know, when I was younger, I always thought, my gosh, I can't even imagine being 30 years old. And then suddenly